Good afternoon, good evening, good metal. This is Coop from the Spoken Metal Show. Just a little short intro just before we get into things. We managed to finally get to sit down with the wonderful Simon Hall, and we had a pretty good chat. Like, to be honest with you, covered a lot of stuff that you'd think we'd cover. Obviously, Bloodstock, Metal to the Masses, Beholder, and then a few other little bits and pieces as well. It was a lot of fun. Hope you enjoyed this one. It's we've been trying to get Simon for quite some time. Hugely influential person in the world of metal. A lot of people asked us to try and get in touch with him so we could have a sit down, so we did. So this is us backstage before the show with Beholder, and I hope you enjoy. Thanks for that. So I'll do something of an intro. It's difficult to do any kind of an intro talking to yourself and the things that you've done. But like I say, it was
just ask me. I'll just spit it off.
It was the lead person that a lot of people wanted us to talk to you about. And looking through your credentials, I can't think of a finer person. If there was a national walking heritage site to metal, there might be someone who every 30 minutes does a tour of Simon Hall. Maybe. No, because I looked through and, like, you know, what an impressive sort of resume. Just obviously the frontman of Beholder.
Yeah.
That's in itself.
The Bloodstock, the Metal to the Masses.
And band mentoring. And kind of helping acts and developing them, and all the way up to candlemaking.
You know about that as well. Cool.
But it was just.
I'll tell you what, that's doing better than all of the above.
I'd probably claim to one of the weirdest sights I think I've ever seen on stage, when you did at Bloodstock. You did the forward
roll.
How surreal!
Yeah, I blame Pilkington.
What a beautiful thing!
Yeah,
because ultimately it was very beautiful.
Yeah, raised a lot of money.
Raised a lot of money, brought an awareness to it. Out of a surreal, and just a lot of people just going, you know what? Let's just see how far this can go, and it did.
You know what? I played in front of thousands of people, time and again. And that was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever had to do in my fucking born days. Was do a full.
It was a moment. It was a real. I'm a
20-stone guy. I was just thinking, this could go horribly wrong. I'm going to land on my neck, break my neck, and just lie there in a pool of piss, going,
yeah.
Oh, that didn't work too well.
But it was just one of those moments. It's like, you know, I was working the show, and we were seeing there was some great bands on them, and it was a really good Bloodstock, a really great set. It was nice that was a thing amongst all those. That was very nice to me. That, like, you know, I mean, obviously we'll go into Bloodstock's
my claim to fame on that evening is Dee Snider and Phil Campbell supported my show because I went on after them.
Sure.
So that'll do.
Well, that was like to have that thing, like the kind of before everything got kicked off and they came out, and Dee came out and did that. That was just like, that was a moment, and I think everybody watching that knew it was as well.
But to be honest, we knew that was cementing what was going to be a good weekend.
Yeah, it was such a good omen.
The atmosphere from there on, it was just like banging.
Well, because you had, obviously, it's the end of Dee's career, or at least Twisted Sister's career. Yeah. It's obviously the Lenny thing, you know, and Phil starting his whole thing with the Bastard Sons, exactly. And that's it. It was just a really, it was a good omen. But we'll get to Bloodstock.
Cool. Let's do this.
Relax.
Anyway, mate,
take it easy. Let's go back. Pretend I'm hypnotising you and taking you back to your childhood or whatever. When's the first time a young little Simon Hall hears metal?
Are we running now then? Okay, cool.
Don't worry about that.
Okay, cool. The first time I sort of really got into metal, I think, was sort of 81, 82. I think I went to see the Rods supporting Iron Maiden back in the day. This was when Run to the Hills and stuff like that was kicking off.
Sure.
And I remember seeing the Rods. I was really impressed with Maiden. I mean, this is the first time I'd seen Eddie come out and all this line. It was incredible. But there was a band called the Rods, which I later found out years down the line it was Ronnie Dio's cousin.
Right. Okay.
And they were like a three-piece, sort of ZZ Top-esque.
Kind of blues, hard rock thing, yeah.
And from there on in, 1984 was my first Monsters of Rock.
Sure.
I can remember the lineup as if it was yesterday. Motley Crue opened, YNT, Accept, doing Balls to the Wall and all that. Gary Moore, Empty Rooms, all this malarkey. Gary Moore, Van Halen.
Yeah.
arguably all those people as well at the peak of their powers.
Yeah, yeah. This is when AC/DC were headlining. This is when Van Halen and AC/DC had the standoff backstage, which I later found out about.
Right.
That was when AC/DC were doing a press conference by all accounts, and Dave Lee Roth, in his infinite wisdom, thought, "I want to fuck this one over." And I was talking to a couple of the guys that did the press that weekend, and apparently everyone's in the tent listening to Angus and whatever going on about the show, and outside Dave's dressing room he had one of those big boom boxes and just started doing his warm-up, which included flips, and apparently all the cameras just spun round.
Took it all off them.
You know, it's kind of that kind of shit. So those, you know, that's pretty much where it all started. My go-to bands back in the day were Sabbath, were Priest, were, you know, Zeppelin, were the Deep Purple.
All those kind of Mount Rushmore.
You know, they are the Mount Rushmores of metal.
Yeah.
You know, out of that spurns a whole wider genre of music.
Were you in a band when you went to these things, or were you?
Well, the first band that I was in was I was about 13. God, we must have been bloody awful. But
It's everybody's favourite.
Yeah, but it was literally, you know, schoolmates just rehearsing in the old man's fucking living room, just playing covers to Queen, Fat Bottom Girls and stuff like that.
Sure, yeah.
You know, so you know, it does seem to have been ingrained in my sort of my childhood. You know, mum and dad fucking hated it.
That's the point, though.
You know what? Yeah. Well, yeah, you say they're meant to, but the fact of the matter is, I kind of look at it years down the line, and I'm shouting up to my daughter saying, "Turn it up! I've not heard it." I've not heard it.
Well, that's the exception, isn't it?
You know, she's playing the new Cancer Bats album, and I'm like, "Fuck, I haven't heard this. Turn it up."
Yeah.
She's like, "Well, I'm trying to conconcentrate doing my homework. No, turn it up."
That's amazing.
It's a complete juxtaposition.
But that's beautiful.
Yeah,
that's a great
absolutely,
thing.
absolutely.
So when you go to these shows and you go to your first Monsters of Rock, and it puts the seeds in to like sort of play in your own band and do your own songs. When did it come to sort of being like, I could approach this even seriously? I could go and play in a live, like a pub or a club or whatever, and actually maybe even get a couple of quid for it.
Yeah, so it sort of materialised into God. I'm thinking back to fucking hell. Okay, so I'm thinking back to the original band was a band called Bismo Klux, which was based off 2000 AD comic. Sure. It was a character out of that, I think.
Right.
And I remember the first gigs we had was 83, 84. As I say, when I was a wee nipper.
Yeah.
I think it was about 16, because I know that the gaffer was asking me, you know, "Are you old enough?" "Yeah, of course I'm old enough, I'll be fine."
Sure.
This was at the Green Dragon in Stratford. Now, the only reason I remember this is for two things. One, the gig itself, when this pretentious little fucking 16-year-old kid with a silly flicked haircut, you know, just looked like the Pillsbury doughboy.
Because this is like the 80s, right?
Oh, yeah. I had a cape. I decided to wear a cape. Now bear in mind, we're doing really cheesy, really crappy attempts at cover versions, and they were fucking awful, undoubtedly. But I had a cape on, and the only reason I remember that is I saw a photo of it about a year ago and fucking died because of social media, because some twat
somebody had found it.
Yeah, somebody decided to put it up. And the other reason I realised, and not quite so humorous, was, and also this may sort of lead on to why I sort of went down the tech road as well, is because a week later, or a couple of weeks later, this was the Green Dragon in Stratford-upon-Avon, the guitarist in a band died, and the reason was the electric shorted up his guitar and killed him stone dead on the stage.
Jeez.
So that's one of the reasons why I remember the venue. That's one of the reasons why I remember that being one of my first shows. So that was Bismo Klux, who, in years to come, over the years, sort of developed into what was Beholder.
Right.
Basically, there was a long period where we didn't see each other, but we were schoolmates, and they lived in whatever, and I went off and did university, and then they sort of hunted me down and said, "Do you want to try and do it?" And it was at the time when I was singing for the Handsome Beasts. which was a New Woburn band after Gary Dalloway died, and we were playing up and down the country, but it wasn't making a great deal of money. So I said, well, let's have a look at this covers band, and that's how Beholder was kind of born, and that's when we were taking stuff like Pantera and Diamond Head and taking all these classic kind of metal tunes, not so much hard rock, more hard metal, because we saw so many tributes and covers bands going up and down the country that were doing, Highway to Hell, and come on, we've heard it all
the staples.
It's a staple diet, and we didn't want to do that. We wanted to say, no, you want to listen to Pantera, man. You want to listen to Corrosion of Conformity. You want to hear some really heavy shit, and that's what we did. So, and out of that's when we kind of looked at each other after different lineup changes and whatnot. We kind of looked at each other and said, actually, the musicians we've got in this band, we are really wasting time and effort by doing covers. Let's dive in.
That seems like everybody I talk to who makes the move from covers to being an actual band seems to make that decision at some point. I think there comes a point where you make that decision where you're going to go, listen, we're a covers band and that's the way it's going to be, or we're a covers band, we can play. So why don't we start?
The thing is, if you were to do it on a financial basis, you'd stay as a covers band. There's no two ways about it. We were happy making, I don't know, £300 a gig.
Yeah, not bad.
Friday, Saturday, maybe a Sunday show as well.
And it will be regular stuff as well.
Christ,
do you know what they're booking? Yeah.
Excuse me. Yeah, we could have gone out every single week, all up and down the country. As much as we wanted to. But no, we kind of looked at each other and said, well, let's do it. So it was, what year would it be now? 2003, 2004, we decided to do the first album. Okay. I think so. Yeah.
So you said you talk about tech a little bit. Did you do a stint of that? Was it was backline or?
Yeah, it was always a case of I was a builder. I had my own building company. So excuse me. Come the weekends, it was a case that Friday I ripped the van out of building material, and I bought the PA, and I bought the amps, and I bought the PA. So I myself and my brother-in-law kind of got to know about impedance of rigs and size of rigs.
You kind of did your backline training through necessity.
Exactly, it was through necessity, because so many of the rooms, back in the day as well, there was no in-house PAs. You brought the PA with you,
and you're always thinking. I mean, that must be a big sort of moment when that poor guy dies because someone didn't understand how electricity simply as that, and didn't set up the stage properly. You probably, there's a part of you's going, hold on, I'd like to make sure I'm in control of that, because if he can die from it, I want to make damn sure I know what I'm going to.
Point one, circuit breakers.
Before you even start, let's look at impedance. Okay. So you did that for a little bit. Did you just do backline? Did you play the instruments?
It wasn't so much backline, because obviously the guitarist did the backline, but I sort of brought the PAs in and the mixing desk and learned about mixing desk. Now I don't in any way, shape or form confess to being an engineer. I'm not.
But you've got a working knowledge.
I've got a working knowledge of how things work. I.e. you've got bottom end, you've got the high registers, you've got the mid frame, and this is how you build a show, if you like, and this is how you so you can see, I mean, certainly I can see, you can see where these blocks have come from to get where we are. You can tell when you sort of break it down, you go, okay, and each man should be the sum of the parts of their lives, for sure.
So when we're doing Beholder and you make the change, you go, okay, we've done the covers, we're going to do our own stuff. Was it a line in the sand, or was it a slow? Did you chuck a couple of your own songs in first? Why did them?
Great, because what happened was, great question, because what happened was we did an EP first, which I'm struggling to remember the name of.
Age of no, that was later on.
Basically, we did a cover. We did an EP with 4 tracks on it. And one of the tracks on it was "Never Take Us Down," the song that we did for Sophie. Now, it was literally a case that whole information about the Sophie Lancaster Foundation, about Sophie's death, sort of came through to me, and I sort of realised what was going on. And as a father, that really upset me. It absolutely, mortified me.
Came home to you. You can make it.
So then I wrote the Never Take Us Down track, and the next thing I know is the Sophie Lancaster Foundation are getting in touch with us and saying, thank you. Can we use this? Sylvia actually used it. She actually used it when she went to The Hague years down the line.
Wow.
I know. Yeah, she actually played it.
That's a very that's
and she kind of used it as a backdrop and sort of a vocal piece, if you like, for fighting for
a context more than anything else, about explaining the situation to someone. Because you've got to take, you know, hate crime. As difficult and a complicated an issue it is
very complicated.
You've got to explain that to the Hague. Yeah. These are people who they're not in the world of metal and don't understand terms like emo and things. They don't understand this.
That's right.
And if you can somehow kind of, you know, break it down for someone using a song, that's an incredibly powerful.
Yeah, I must admit, you know, the whole thing about Sophie. Anyone that's got a heart, it moved them, and to me as a father to a daughter, you know, it fucking broke my heart.
Yeah.
So I used it. I didn't know how it'd work, whether it'd work, but the fact of the matter is, and I've said this in loads of interviews since, when I write lyrics, I wish I could write lyrics like my heroes of Dio, Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, and write more mystical, more fantastical sort of lyrics, but I can't. I really can't. I really struggle with doing that. And you know, we tried it on the first album, The Awakening. Didn't really work. But the fact of the matter is, we sort of harkened back to the EP and said, actually, when I write from the heart,
when Simon Hall writes,
when I write from the heart, then it's got more resonance in delivery, and it's got more resonance in lyrical templates. So yeah, going back to that, we did that EP. We were really pleased with that, and then we decided not long after that to do the first full album. Excuse me. Now, in sort of hindsight, we look back at that album, and it's a real smorgasbord. We've never sort of decided on a template of how Beholder's got to sound, which is probably to our detriment in some respects. In the respect that, you know, we won't be classed as a band.
You haven't given someone an easy handle to put on it.
No, and to be quite honest, some of the reviewers and some of the media struggle with that, but that's their own favourite, it's not mine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, we did The Awakening. We kind of look back at it now, and there's elements of power metal in there, there's elements of thrash metal in there, there's elements of, you know, the heavier side of life in there, and that was literally, I've got a riff, okay, cool. I've got a drum pattern, okay, cool. I've got let's try and cobble them together.
Somehow pull this together, Don't
get me wrong, there's some great songs on there. I go back to like Razorline and Snake Eyes and stuff like that. They're fucking great. But we didn't really know what we were.
Sure.
Which is like kind of cool. We kind of went, yeah, it doesn't really matter, does it? You know. But the further into the industry we got, and the further into, we were like, okay, the next one we've got to develop the Beholder sound.
Right.
So that's when we came out with the Order of Chaos. If I'm dead honest with you, it's an album that we look back at and go, bollocks.
Yeah.
Wish we'd have done it better. I wasn't in a bad place health-wise. I found out I was a diabetic, and I was like dealing with all that shit. A couple of the guys are going through separations and all this lot, and it was a really angry, really bitter. It showed, it's a really fucking angry album.
Right.
And, you know, especially when we're going through the recession and people losing jobs. A couple of the guys lost jobs, and you know, it's just really.
You can't hide that if that's how you feel. Really, if you are writing from the heart, it's not going to get hidden, is it?
Yeah. So there's elements of that album that are like pure gold, pure solid, pure angry, visceral, you know.
For good or bad, however people see it, that was you to the nth degree.
It happened because, again, we were just honest with ourselves.
Sure.
And it was really, really angry album. Now, the fact of the matter is, we kind of, Beholder's forever analysing itself and saying, you know, how can we, you know, how do we feel? Not so much how can we better ourselves for other people, how do we feel about it? So we came out of the Order of Chaos and said, you know, all the pointers are there, but you know what we're missing? We're missing the melody that we had in the first album, The Awakening. The vocal melodies, those little bits of quiet, those little bits of calm before the storm. Because the Order of Chaos was storm all the way through.
There was no riffs and peaks, if you will, like
highs and lows. Highs and lows.
Was that a moment when everybody kind of turned to you then?
No, we
kind of were like, well, okay.
Far from it. What I actually did is I said, look, the band up until this point has been a band whereby we all go in the rehearsal studio, we'll look at each other and go, you got any riffs? Yeah, I've got a couple of riffs, let's try and bang it out. Yeah, I like this template, sing this over the top, that kind of works.
Yeah.
But this time I said, no, what you've got to do, I said, you know, Chris, Scott and Si are musicians. I'm not a musician. I'm a lyricist and I'm a singer and I'm a frontman. Okay?
You don't see that as being as being a musician?
No, I really don't.
You really don't?
I see it as...
You don't see the voice as an instrument?
I do, yeah. But the fact is, the voice is an instrument on top of everything.
Okay.
You know?
Sure.
So I said, look, go away and write a template. Write pieces of music.
Okay.
Write, whole... And they did. They came back with what I think it was about 20 songs, and what they did as well is they got more progressive. So it wasn't just verse, chorus, mid 8, verse,
it
chorus out.
It became a bit more interesting, a bit more involved.
It's more progressive.
Yeah.
It got really proggy, and I mean there are some tracks like iMachine on the latest album that's very progressive, and it was so cool because all of a sudden I just had a template to go, oh yeah. What we need to do then is I'll throw this on top. Let's take that out. Let's put that in and then it was. You know what I have to say, out of the whole thing with being in a band, playing live is fucking brilliant. Camaraderie between members is brilliant, but the best part for me is writing and creating new songs.
Inception of an idea.
Oh man, it's better than
become something. Yeah.
I've told her it's better than sex. I mean it, man. I mean it. Seriously, me and Chris are like a yin yang sort of a thing.
Sure.
We get on so much and we sort of know when to avoid each other. But fuck me, when it locks in,
right.
it's
funny just to say that, and I don't mean to downplay and say like vocal being an instrument. I mean, Dio used to say, Ron used to be the same way. He's like, I'm all about creating an image, creating a thing, and he very much did that. He said on top of things, he said, this is the idea.
Yeah.
So I totally understand that. So when was there a clicking moment where you wrote something, and then you obviously have the beautiful moment, you write it, you create it, you finish it, you get it as a beautiful piece, you take it live, and it works? Was there a moment for you when it was a song that you thought,
there was loads of times like that, especially with Reflections, because as with this album we said, right, we're not going to rush it out there. The temptation when you've got a song and you've rehearsed it a couple of times and you're feeling it is to record it.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing you can do. We've learned that by the Order of Chaos.
Sure.
The Order of Chaos, literally, we didn't do the songs live before we recorded it. So what we did with Reflections is we took songs like Frozen Steps of Victoria, iMachine, etc., and we took them out live. One of the big times was when we played out in Norway, and the Frozen Steps of Victoria is about Victoria Island, about Anders Breivik, about those kids being slaughtered on that island, and it's a very dark and a very
there's a strong.
I had to be really careful.
Yeah, you've got
about
you've got to be delicate, but at least
firm. Yeah, and it was and fucking hell, Christ on a bar. I'm getting there thinking about it. Sure. But we did this out in Norway, and I do remember kids crying, and I was like, fuck, we've done it again. Much like we'd done it with the Never Take Us Down thing.
Yeah, and
it was one of those seminal moments that says, look, at the end of the day, we make no money being a Beholder. Sure. There are very few bands in the UK that make money. But if you have those seminal moments that just touch people, I can take that to the grave.
Yeah, and that's the whole point. That's really one of the things that we talk about at the Spoken Metal Show is that level of community that metal has, and that level of it's something I don't really think you find in a lot of other sets of music. There's that camaraderie and that sort of very much sticking together for a common cause. So to have something like that happen in front of you must be beautiful. It must be a very, very
it's beautiful. I remember
because that actually means something. We laugh and joke about playing shows and all that type of thing, and on the road's both horrible and brilliant, and humorous and terrible and tragic, and all those things. But you've possibly helped someone. You know what?
There's I can hark on about several different occasions, but I think one of the ones that struck me as well was when we did Beermageddon,
right?
Which is like a 300 cap. Indoor festival that we did in the Midlands, and we were headlining that, and I was just talking a preamble before we kicked into Never Take Us Down, and I was just saying, look, for any of you young kids out there that get bullied at school, just remember that you've got friends around you and whatever. And there was a young kid just in fucking floods. This kid was only so big, and I was just thinking, actually, what we are doing, And what we failed to achieve, well, not failed to achieve, but what we kind of missed out on with the Order of Chaos was the fact is it was very angry, very visceral, very, very aggressive.
Sure.
Right? After that, the conversation was, look, the fact is we are 4 or 5 positive people in this band. I want the choruses, like in My Revolution, like in I Don't Want to Be Machine, like in, you know, in songs throughout the Reflection, I want them to be positive. I don't want them to be cheesy Sabaton. I don't want that. But what I want is positivity, because we're out, you know, if we're actually honest with ourselves, this country is in a fucking dire state.
Very much so.
It's in a really fucking bad position. And to be quite honest, with everything that's going on worldwide, I don't want to sound like a negative bastard, but the truth of the matter is the world is not in a very good place. It isn't. So agree. You know, if we can just harness those little bits of positivity so that people might just walk out of a venue, and instead of putting up a barrier when they see somebody, I'm not saying whether it's a race, a religion barrier, an economic
some
barrier,
kind of cultural barrier,
whatever barrier it is, to just break through that for 5 minutes and shake a hand to somebody and, so, you know, put a smile and just. So that's what My Revolution and I Don't Want to Be Machine and these songs are about. Is about just that moment of clarity where anger can fucking do one for 5 minutes.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong, the songs are still heavy as hell, and
but
still have a hell of a lot of anger.
A positive place,
they'll be angry through the verses and they'll be positive in the chorus. You know,
but that's you know, like you say, you talk about you sung that one particular kid. She will get something from that.
Yeah,
that's important. That's incredibly important.
Yeah, as I say, you know, I can take that with me now.
I saw an interesting thing during. There was a band playing what's called "This Is Turin." You're from kind of around these parts.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
And at one point, they took about 2 or 3 minutes, I think it was. And they read out people that had been. Did you see this?
I didn't see it. I heard about it. I booked them, obviously. But
someone could have played a song during then.
Yeah.
Some bands would have chose to play a song then, and they just read out the names of those things. Wow. And that's a new up and coming band.
Yeah.
That are like yourselves are just going, listen. The path of being negative and putting barriers up and assessing people by just the way you see them. That's full. There's lots of people walking down there. It's the path to being positive and going, well, hold on a second, do you know this person? You got to know, stop judging people based on things.
It's that judgmental attitude. It's being judgmental without actually. And that all comes out of the social media side of life as well. Everybody's so quick to have an opinion, quick to have a judgment.
So with the Sophie thing, was that kind of what led towards Bloodstock? Was that kind of... Because it seems to be then that would make sense to me. That
we actually played Bloodstock before we did that.
Right.
I think. I'm trying to think.
Around the same time.
No, the first time we played Bloodstock was 2007.
Okay.
And the album itself came out 2009. So we were still doing covers, because I remember, I just distinctly remember the first time we played there, we did covers. Not necessarily very well. Right. But we did covers all the same. And I think that me working for Bloodstock came out of me moaning that the PA blew up or the light or something like that.
You're like, fuck it, you can do a better job, and you're like...
Exactly that.
Yeah,
that was exactly that. Paul Gregory came up to me and said, I suppose you can do it. Well, yeah, I can actually.
I can actually.
Yeah. He said, all right, well, go on then, crack on. And
that was your job interview?
Literally, that was a job interview, I was fucking hired the following morning. So, I've been with them since it would be 2007.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, 2007. And they're great. They're the best family in the country, man. The most honest, the most.
I'll tell you what I've seen. Walk around in the VIP bars and all that type of thing. I saw yourself, and I saw Vicky, and I saw a lot of the organisers doing something I don't see at a lot of festivals. They weren't just in the VIP area; they were going out.
Oh yeah, totally.
Watching a band in the pit, going up, queuing up with other people.
Yeah.
They were one of the people, one of the fans, because they were one of the fans. Yeah. You don't see that. I didn't see that. I saw yourself going to watch a band, not from side of stage or playing that card or seeing some kind of seated on high area.
Last place I want to be is backstage.
I saw it, and I never saw that, and I thought that's got to be seriously at the absolute sort of inception of Bloodstock, that's got to be why it's so successful.
Well, you know what? It started long. Well, I mean, several
it was
years.
Like a hall.
2001 was it? It started. Something like that. So it started with them basically wanting to get European sort of power metal bands over, which would otherwise, like the Blind Guardians of this world, would otherwise not have had, and Nightwish as well, would not have had a platform in the UK. And they were innovators. They brought these bands over and gave them a platform, and it spurred from them to go to the outdoors. And I think was it 2006 was the first outdoor, something like that. So by the time I sort of arrived in 2007, sort of Jack booted me Ray around the place and just moaned about everything in a typical diva-ish fashion. There was still a lot to learn from all parties. And that wasn't even called the Sophie stage, and it was called the Lava stage or something like that.
Right, sure, okay.
So then, sort of I've been with them, and it first started that I was just supplying PA and lights for the stage, and then I was brought into the team proper in respect of bookings, and it's got to the stage now that I do the bookings with Vicky. She does mainly main stage, and I help her out with that, and then between us we do the Sophie stage, and then I do all of the New Blood stage, all of the Jägermeister stage, etc, etc.
So did you start it kind of like as a stage manager type of thing?
Yeah, I'm production manager for Sophie.
So if people don't understand, what is a stage or production manager, what do they actually do?
Well, as a production manager, my job is sort of production manager really starts from the beginning of the year, next year, running up to August. I'll be basically sorting out the crew. That's the first thing, is who are my crew going to be? Who am I going to bring in to do lights? Who am I going to bring in to do staging? Who am I going to bring in to do production, as in sound, etc, etc? And also, how does that tie in with security? Is everything in place? Are the health and safety issues in place? All the really interesting stuff.
I was going to say, it's an enormous amount of paperwork.
But then I've got that side of it, and so that's one thing that's all tied in. Then there's the metal to the masses, obviously, which is a massive part of my job.
Sure.
But I'm also sort of tied in with our sponsors like Hobgoblin. We run a Hobgoblin video upload, so I'm tied in with that.
Sure.
And to be quite honest, it's now become pretty much a full-time job.
Yeah, I was going to say it would imagine it eats out everything else.
It's fucking great, mate. I used to be a builder.
Yeah.
But now I'm...
Well, I love the fact that you converted your garage to be...
building a metal...
There's your soundbite for you. But have you converted your garage now to like an office or something?
Yeah, everything's...
I love the fact that one of the best and most lauded sort of festivals, certainly one of the biggest in the UK and approaching sort of Europe, and one of the organisers is doing that from his garage.
What you got to remember is as well, I'm the only person that's employed full time by Bloodstock.
Really? Okay.
What you got to remember is the directors have all got day jobs as well.
Yeah.
This isn't Live Nation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No besmirchment to Live Nation in any way, shape or form.
Yeah.
But that's the honest part about this is Vicky, Rachel, Adam, Paul, they've all got jobs.
Yeah.
And
that's why I think that it certainly attracts the nice attention it does, is because it's made for by fans. You couldn't do it if you didn't. You couldn't do it.
The tagline could so easily be deemed as churlish. For the fans, by the fans. Yeah. It could be, but it's not.
But it's the truth.
It's the truth. Exactly, and it can't be sneered at because it is exactly that. It's we're all metalheads.
So there's a bit of set of fairly big questions here, but so UK festivals, where are we with them now? Are we in a bad place? Are we in a good place? I know Download, whenever they make an announcement, there's like a stampede of people to attack them for it. They can't seem to do any right, can't do any wrong. Whenever anything kind of comes up, there's like 1 billion festivals seems to go on. Is there too many? Is there not enough? What's the state of festivals?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I'm not gonna deny. I think Download has a harder position than many of them.
Yeah.
Simply because they have to put 80 to 90,000 people in a field to make it a viable proposition.
Yeah.
Therefore, they have to look at the Metallicas, the AC/DCs, etc., well, these bands are not going to last forever, you know. Whereas, you know, Bloodstock is very much happy, and is very, very much happy to cater for the 15 to 20,000 people, which would therefore mean a lot of the mid-card bands on festivals the size of Hellfest and Download are our headliners.
Sure.
And that gives us a better proposition, a better sort of, you know, not to say that we're not going to be looking to get bigger, but the fact of the matter is, I think it's going to cap itself naturally. I think it'll cap itself because we don't want to lose the family feel. We don't want to lose the intimacy. Yeah. But we'd also like to put a few more people in the field. It's one of those juxtapositions that's a good one to be in.
Yeah, no, it's a nice problem to have. It's the first thing that struck to me when I first went to Bloodstock was exactly that, like you say, that family feel. I was walking through the tents, I went through before the arena's open to go get a place and start to watch some bands and some early bands on. As I was cutting through, so it's early in the morning, about 9 o'clock. And there's people getting up, and there's people passed out, and there's all the usual stuff. And there's a woman sitting down.
And that's just the crew.
Yeah, that's just the crew. It gets and there's a woman sitting down. She's got a little chair, and she's got a daughter. Her daughter's got a little chair.
Yep.
And she's like, insanely coloured hair, piercings. She's got corpse makeup on and stuff like that.
Good.
Her daughter, and if she's more than 7, I'd be amazed, is sitting in the chair next to her. She's got a mirror and she's doing hair makeup.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about, man.
And I was like, I was a bit choked by that. I was like, and she was like, she was copying her mum because I thought it was just a beautiful thing. And on top of that, then I never seen. I've done lots and lots of festivals of different styles of music. There's always a night where there's trouble or there's some kind of theft. I just didn't see that with Bloodstock. I think the minute you start doing what the likes of maybe Download have done, when they try and open it up to a large amount of people,
diversification is a real
very difficult. They have to take a chance on a head.
You have to. Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is, we have been called out for diversifying and putting the hate breeds on because that's not a recognised. Well, it doesn't matter, does it? The first time we booked hate breed, we were absolutely slammed.
Really?
But the fact is, I remember standing there with Alex Milas on the crowd barrier, looking out when hate breed were playing. And I remember seeing kids in corpse paint loving it and thinking, so for all your protestations
you're
on Facebook, I've just spotted you. So,
I would argue Hatebreed could certainly headline one of the stages.
Sophie, probably.
I could say I don't think anybody would go, that's outrageous now.
The fact of the matter is, we say that there's a beautiful, healthy community, of which there is.
Yes.
Right, and on the scheme of it, there is. Social media would tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
Social media is the biggest. It's a pain in the arse, and it's also a blessing.
Yeah.
That there's no two ways about it. And people have an opinion and sort of get on the high horse immediately. You were saying about Download getting trashed.
They put announcements. There was 300 people said this was the worst thing ever.
Trust me, though, mate. But the first time we booked Slayer, there'd been apparently 10 years of a call for Slayer. The festival was either not big enough, or the festival couldn't afford it, or it wasn't the right time, we couldn't do it logistically. 9-10 years down the line, they booked them, and people were going, fuck Slayer, we're not into Slayer. Slayer doesn't, actually it was the best ticket seller we've had. So I'm not going to moan. But the fact is, if you read every single comment and take it to heart, you'll be
Christ, if you read everything on the internet, you'd think all kinds.
You'll be swinging from the rope.
As we know, I mean, you're in a band that plays shows in local venues, and you're one of the organisers of a big festival. As well as I do, the Facebook world versus the real world is almost completely separate.
Yeah, it is.
You can. I've seen playing bands. People can click a button to say they like a band, but to actually go out, watch a show, buy a t-shirt, buy a CD, there is a massive disparity between the two.
There is.
That's obviously a problem, and it's obviously a problem for festivals, and as it distills down,
but the fact is,
it's a problem for the smaller bands.
You say it's a problem. It is a problem for festivals. It's a problem for record labels as well. And it's a problem for promoters. But the fact of the matter is that the fundamental difference between Bloodstock and what I do with things like the Metals of the Masses is I get off my arse and go and make a difference, right? Yeah. The fact is, I have actually been sat in record company meetings with my head in my hands, because they're sat there going, "Oh, we don't know what's happening. Things aren't selling."
Frightening.
And you're like, well, actually, whatever happened to A&R?
Yeah.
What actually happened to artists and repertoire guys being on the ground?
Yeah.
They're not on the ground anymore. Apart from, I'd say, Metal to the Masses, which goes from everywhere, from Inverness down to Plymouth to Norway to Poland, finds the bands.
Let's talk about Metal to the Masses, because it's certainly hugely close to my heart.
Cool.
It's something that I make the effort to go to. Because let's put the selfish way, and I'll put it the diplomatic way.
Yeah, please.
Selfish way first. Yeah. Say I said to you could go and see Slayer in the 80s. Say you could see Metallica in the 80s, Anthrax in the 80s. Say you could see all these bands when they were playing to like 10 people. Yeah. Say you could have seen that first Sex Pistols show in Manchester when 25 people were there. Say you could go to them. Do you want to go to them? How much would you pay to go and see that?
That's right.
I'd pay thousands. Yeah. Well, I'm telling you now, those bands are playing right the fuck now. They're very close to you.
The juxtaposition is, do you want to see the Cambians play in a fucking sports hall in Alton? Do you want to see Bloodstock Dawn play in a sports hall in Alton? Do you want to see, fucking hell, 10-ton slug playing a shithole in fucking Dublin? Yeah. I was there.
Yeah.
At all of these shows, I was there, and I went, come on.
Yeah.
You need a big platform.
You need a big platform. And it's like, so Metal to the Masses for me is one of the only chances now for a band to go, okay, well, we don't know how to get to the next level, whatever that may be, but we know that we can at least go on the Bloodstock stage, get a good write-up if we play, maybe pull in some people that haven't seen us before. I saw Slug play, and that tent was pretty full from what I could see. I saw the World Burn were playing as well. This is a band with like only an EP out, and they were also, people were like, they'll get their 10 minutes, awesome. and it's one of the only ways of a band to come out. How did you start with Metal to the Masses?
What it was is Paul had started this 2 years prior to me starting in 2007.
Sure.
And he called me and he said, "Can I have a chat with you about it?" I said, "Well, go on then." And he talked through the concept of it, and the concept of it is, one, is the bands. Okay, it's about finding those bands. Two, and probably as important now, it's about supporting the venues up and down the country. Because what with smoking bans, noise abatement, rent issues, blah blah blah, it's just too many fucking venues struggling. So, they're charged a minimal franchise fee whereby they can invite these bands in. And when it first started, the fact is there were so many sort of crappy, bloody battle of the bands incentives, which were based
that would be hanging on your back. Oh
fucking hell! The first 3 years I had a torrid time.
Because people are going to see several things. You're going to see it's a battle of the bands. Therefore, it's got to be political. Yeah. There's got to be some money or kickback involved in it.
Exactly.
There's got to be some kind of hidden agenda.
I still get it now.
I'm sure you do.
I still get it now with those that are so entrenched in the old school, turn around saying Bloodstock makes a fucking fortune out of it. How? We charge a fucking minimal franchise fee for these venues to run as many shows
to actually get open and do this.
And anything that we make on that franchise fee is basically pumped into the fact that we put a fucking marquee that's dedicated to those bands. Yeah. And all due respect to us or the World Burn, to etc. 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 They don't sell a great deal of tickets.
No. Well, they don't. They've got to get past.
But we will give them a stage that's worthy of it, a PA that's worthy of it, a crew that will look after them. We'll give them all the media incentives and everything that any other band would get. Yeah. And then we'll put them in a 1,500 capacity.
The whole thing is cyclic then, because if you do that,
you look out for them,
and they do well. What's to say? Like, so I saw.
What's to say they don't become fucking huge and come back and play for 25 quid?
All you're doing is sowing the seeds for your own garden.
Of course, but seriously, there are still people out there that have got this fucking bee in the bonnet going, it's a battle of the bands. No, it's not. In reality sakes, yes, it's a battle of the bands, but The fact of the matter is, it's more about bands that might not necessarily even think that they're going to be playing at Bloodstock, networking with other bands, playing in front of different audiences,
talking about,
you know, and helping these promoters.
You're from somewhere, but I haven't played.
Let's hook up together. Let's do a gig. And I've seen that so many times.
I saw at one of the shows. You were announcing. It was a couple of the finals, and it was one of the ones you were announcing. I saw. Not a lot of people notice, and I think people deserve to notice. And I don't want to embarrass you too much, but it needs to be said. And after everybody's set, and I think there was 5 bands playing, or I might be wrong, there might have been 6, but I think it was 5 bands. After the band had finished their set, they would go off and kind of unpack, and another band goes on. You went up to each of these bands and had a conversation
every single time. Every single time.
I don't think people realise that, and a couple of times I was privy to said conversation, and it wasn't just, hey, the drums sounded great, hey, I love the third song. You know what, it wasn't that. It was sageful advice.
One of my first things is I'm not going to go up to the winning band straight away, because they're already in seventh heaven.
They're enjoying
nothing I say to them will be taken in anyway.
Sure.
But what I do is go to the bands that didn't make it through and say, look, the fact of the matter is, on any given day, you could have progressed up to Bloodstock. But the fact of the matter is that the thing and the truth of it is you're now on my radar. And you're now on my radar, should I say, and basically I know about you. You know, and thank you for that. And try and instill in any band that takes part that, look, you know, just keep doing it for the love of the music first and foremost.
Sure.
Never take the fact that you haven't sort of progressed to Bloodstock this year as a knockback. Fucking far from it. You know, it just means that this year isn't the one. It could be further down the line.
Sure.
And it might not even be Bloodstock. Fuck, I might have missed a trick, and he might be playing fucking Hellfest.
Yeah, sure.
You know what I mean?
It could be Wacken, it could be anything.
Yeah, it could be Wacken. Yeah, exactly. It could be any of them.
So I think Metal to Masses is incredibly important, and for the people listening to this now, there'll be I've seen a list of venues, and it's ever growing now.
Yeah.
If there's one close by, even if, in fact, especially if you don't know anybody on the bill, go. Because you're going to see probably a band. You might have that glorious moment where you see a band that you've never heard of before, and they blow you away. That's one of the great things about music.
Do you know a band called Suma?
Suma, yeah.
Yeah. I remember seeing them the first time in London, and they were on the same bill. And this was the same final as a band called Wretched Toad. Oh man, both of them bands, because I could only pick one. I was in a right state, and this is how honest the thing is I turned around and said, right, the winner is Wretched Toad, but let me tell you now, Suma will play Bloodstock the following year, and because, you know, that is my hand on my heart, the following year, sure enough, they were playing.
Well, like you said, it might not be immediately successful, but you've started. You might put it on the radar.
Exactly.
You know, and that's why I think it's so incredibly important to get to these shows, because, like you say, where's the next crop coming from?
Yeah, exactly.
We don't know. So that kind of dovetails quite nicely into, you know, talking about your band mentoring and working with young bands and sort of doing that. Where did that evolve naturally from just being around bands and going, listen, you need to probably...
Well, the fact is, you're probably referring now to Stampede PR, which is something that I'm in cahoots with Rob Town.
Fantastic,
yeah, he's a great guy, and he's someone that I started to work with Rob. Excuse me. I started to work with Rob on the release of the Reflections album, and it was pretty much it was apparent from the get-go that he's one of these PR guys that, to be quite honest, PR is a mire. It's
the ugly stick of the business.
It's a side of it that it can rob you fucking royal, you know, and it has done with us in the past. It's robbed us royal, and I've seen so many bands sort of, you know, have great products, put a lot into PR, but getting very little back. So sort of working with Rob, I got straight away that he's one of the most genuine guys out there.
Very much so.
He's a lovely guy, and we sort of, you know, over the months we sort of hooked up and had meetings, which usually ended up sort of getting pissed up and missing trains. And if he is listening to this, falling asleep in a travel lodge foyer.
Talking to Rob Bloodstock, he was saying that he still gets approached by bands saying, can you get me on tour with Metallica?
Oh, I know.
And you're like, really? Could we have this disparity and this illusion of like, you write a song and all of a sudden you're on tour with Sepultura? It doesn't work.
This is one of the things that, you know, I've never cuffed off sort of, you know, telling the straight up truth with bands.
Yeah.
Because as a performer in a band, I actually really appreciate when my peers turn around and say, you know what you're doing is great. However, if you tweak that or you went down this road, it might work better for you.
Yeah.
If you're willing to listen to that, that's where you need to go.
Yeah.
So this is kind of where me and Rob sort of locked horns on this and went, you know what, there is room in sort of in giving bands advice, you know, via Skype or however it is, and sort of saying, look, you know, what you have is, you know, your product is X, your delivery is Y, and your finished product, you know, it needs to be this, that and the other. Yeah. I don't know, it's kind of an open-edged thing because the industry will sort of dictate how far these bands go. But the fact of the matter is, any given band, we can set attainable levels, and if your levels are attainable, if they're not, you know, can you put us on Metallica's bill?
Yes, yeah.
Then why can't you just point them in the right direction and say, okay, well look, I think you're a half decent club band, you could get a lot of work playing clubs up and down the country. Aside from that, not sure. Or I think there's a good album deal in it for you, but this is how you need to go about it. I'm not saying we're going to get you that album deal, not in any way, shape or form, but this is how you need to make those steps to get that deal. Is one of the misconceptions or one of the problems that bands have is not knowing the options, not knowing the They don't know the options. They don't know the options. You know, and a lot of the options, to be quite honest, a lot of the options are down to the bands to arrange, if you know what I mean. Because at the end of the day, there's this whole concept of unsigned. Unsigned can be self-signed. Self-signed is DIY. DIY is knowing all the aspects of how to run a band properly. And this is like Beholder. Beholder's been signed once at the beginning, and it was the worst fucking thing we did. We are self-signed, DIY, whatever you want to call us now, and we're in a healthy position because we can dictate to ourselves how far we go and sort of the way people are consuming music nowadays, and sort of approaching music delivery and approaching sort of a lot of it. I do sort of say to bands, you can do it yourself. You can do it yourself, or with the aid of good management, with the aid of good agents.
What are some of the mistakes you think that young bands are making?
Thinking it's going to happen like that.
It's going to be overnight. And it's
going to be overnight. There is no overnight. There is no fucking overnight. There used to be.
People talk about like Nirvana being overnight. They were. You got playing the European tours before. People forget that the only when they hear the band is when they think they became famous. It's not like that. It's like there's a
even the complete juxtaposition to this. Even the baby metals of this world took 4 or 5 years of fucking building up. That's the thing, you know. There is no fucking overnight anymore. And to be quite honest, if it is an overnight sensation, the fact is 9 times out of 10 it will have fizzled out in just as quick a time.
You get the whole thing like Rollins said that, you know, band if it hasn't toured like 200 plus shows, it's not really a band because it won't be able to put up with the rigours of what happens afterwards.
It's the hard yards
when you got to go around Europe playing every
sleeping upright
sleeping upright, playing terrible venues and getting treated badly. You're not going to get through that if you haven't at least had some kind of weathering with it, you know, some sort of tough skin to that. So is that one of the problems then? So it's like an awareness of kind of that's not going to happen overnight. Is another thing a stylistic thing, and by that I mean that the bands are too eager to become this type of band.
This is where, you know, sort of I help with the respect, and we take it all the way back to the fact is, you know, Beholder's never been pigeonholed because we've never wanted to be X, Y or Z. We've always wanted to be, you know, just honest with ourselves, and that is. I appreciate that bands want to be a prog band, want to be a thrash band. I get that, and if that suits the style of their delivery, cool. But what I do say to bands is, don't try and write music for other people. Write music for yourself first and foremost. If you write it for yourself, it'll stand the test of time.
It'll be successful.
And if it doesn't come off, you've got that to fall back on.
Well, when I say successful as well, I mean successful to them.
Yeah, precisely.
You know, I think that's probably the key thing to get a young songwriter in a metal band to understand is that
if you're honest with yourself in what you're doing in your songwriting, and you're not writing just a template outline for a song that you think will sell numbers, because if you think it will sell numbers, you're deluded from the get-go.
Isn't it funny when you look back at some of the great bands of all time, and you say Pantera, that the moment they did that, the moment they went, so do you know what, let's just get rid of the shackles of what we think we should be and let's actually try and be what we should be. Sabbath, well, we'll play loads of blues stuff and we'll call ourselves Earth, and then we'll write a song and no one likes, everybody's just like, what is that? Not in a good way, what is that?
Was it not Geezer that turned around and said, how come everybody's fascinated with like dark
dark and there was Playing Over the Road was Black Sabbath,
there you go,
because the first song they wrote was like Wicked World, and then they play Sabbath in front. I can imagine the first time people hearing that and going, what the fuck are those three notes? What the fuck are they? Man. Are they even on the guitar?
Would it not be the best gig of all time?
This is
first ever Sabbath.
I wonder how many people were there.
With Ozzy with a bath tap round his neck.
I'd love to know how many people were there. I bet you it's less than 100 people were there. And imagine I said to you could be when they first played Black Sabbath. Can you imagine? Man. But it's like that, and like Pantera, when they went from being like the power metal thing with
nobody talks about those first couple of albums.
Where Phil has a poodle pair, and it's like the worst thing in the world. And then all of a sudden they go, do you know what? We're going to get rid of that. We're going to be just dressed in street clothes. Metallica, we're not going to dress up. We'll just dress in street clothes. We'll play way faster than everybody else does. And everybody's like, this is ridiculous. And then you get the first couple of shows that they do. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just funny to me that people don't see that and listen and go, hold on, if we follow our own route, what's happening?
Yeah, this is harks back to me. This is why we talk about the metal community being a strong unit, and it is a strong unit. But again, the social media, they're a bitchy bunch of fuckers as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, people sort of, I don't massively like power metal. I find it's not my thing.
Okay.
But fucking hell, the fact of the matter is, the power metal fans are as elite as the black metal fans, and the black metal fans are just as elite as the thrash.
I like to give this as an analogy. Yeah. If I fight with my family, and we all, brothers and sisters always fight. And you see this all the time, sister and sisters fight, brother and brother fighting, and they'll argue all the live long day. And then someone will try and come into that and try and break up that fight, and they'll join up.
Fucking good luck.
And do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and that's how it is. Like,
it's true.
The black metal guy is going, oh fuck your power metal stuff. I'm not, But the minute someone attacks metal, they're both join up. Yeah, because you've got an army. You've got an army of people.
I think that's dead right. They're strong as one, but unfortunately, social media kind of fragments it slightly.
Yeah.
By its own.
You think like the internet's took away more than it's give? You think?
Yeah,
I think it's something.
I really do. I really do. The fact of the matter is, though, we kind of look at it now and go, well, if we can't do it via the internet, you can't flyer in the streets anymore. You can't rally people. I don't know. It's going to be difficult. So
it's going to be tough. Yeah. Okay. Well, your man's already like kind of doing the. People think that backstage and sound checks are quite glamorous and stuff.
Do you know what? I actually had a conversation with Nige Rocket yesterday, and we literally looked each other in the eye and said, "How many years have we lost listening to fucking drummers in sound checks?"
He was a snare again. Again.
Well, it's great actually. On this tour, on the Onslaught tour, do you know who's doing the engineering?
No.
Doug Hall.
Okay.
Who's Doug Hall? 35 years front of house for Iron Maiden.
I was going to say I recognise the name, but I have no idea why.
Worked at the Whiskey Go Go when bands like Van Halen were coming through.
Is he here today?
He's here today.
Well, I need to get away with that guy now. If there's ever a guy with an opinion,
he's fucking incredible. He's very American.
Okay, I'll take that as a massive positive.
Yeah, I said to him, how you get
So he's the guy with the cowboy hat I've got to find.
yeah. Oh,
Sure.
no, he's real fucking American.
Oh, that's awesome.
He's great, but man, what an engineer. It's the best.
There's
the
credentials
best
there, right
sounds
there.
I've heard for ages, yeah. He's got a real unique way of mixing sounds as well, but
Yeah.
trust me, that'll sound brutal tonight.
Yeah. Well, let's just I'll wrap things up. This is we've got three more days now on this tour.
Yeah, we're in Chester tonight, then Plymouth, Bristol, and then we finish off at Titan Fest on Saturday.
Oh, excellent, yeah.
Onslaught, Hell, Annihilated,
Yeah.
and Warrior Soul, and a whole bunch of other bands.
That's excellent.
Cool,
That's excellent. So it's like if you're out there, you get a chance to hear this, so we can put this up before the shows. I don't know, it might be quite close. If not, I definitely suggest checking this out. Like, this is very much a British metal tour for me.
This is exactly what it is.
Yeah. Which is fantastic, you know. So it only leaves me to say that thank you very much for. I know you were tired. I know it's.
It's all good. Thank you.
It can be a pain in the arse, but hopefully, you know, there's young bands out there who's heard that and gone. Actually, yeah, I could probably take a few things from that. You know,
if there's any bands out there, go and have a look at the Bloodstock website, bloodstock.uk.com, and take a look at the Metal to the Masses venues. We've got venues up and down the UK, running from, as I say, Inverness all the way down to Cornwall and Devon. Finals at which I'll be heading into from April through to the middle of July. I haven't told the missus yet. I'm sure she'll be delighted.
We've already seen some of the acts announced, Blind Guardian and stuff like that. We've seen some of the acts for Bloodstock, and I'm not going to ask you to name any more because I know if you could, you would. You'd put them up on the website. When are we getting Priest? When are we?
Not this year.
It's not going to be this year.
Well, not 2017.
We've got to get some.
Mate, to be honest, we've been really open with people and said that, look, at the end of the day, they're not doing anything. They've told us at least they're not doing anything. We know that will be the headline to all headlines.
It's going to be, isn't it? Certainly for me and yourself, big Priest fans, that's going to be up there. Like,
well, they were stunning at downloading the Pouring Rain the other year.
Yeah.
And to be honest,
I've never seen them play a bad set.
Oh,
I don't think they're capable of.
No, I don't think
they're capable of.
Definitely not. So, you know, it's not without trying. Put it like that, but it won't be 2017, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So
That's okay. I mean, this is already shaping up to be a really, really great set, and we've only had a taste.
Yeah, I think you know, a Man of Marth very much like Behemoth were a few years ago. We've kind of looked at it and said we need to progress them to be the headline stage. You know, Behemoth a few years ago, we put them on and everyone's going, really? They're big enough? Anyone that walked out of that Behemoth show just went, fucking hell.
For me, as long as Evil Scarecrow are playing in their slot,
They're not playing that fucking festival again.
Watching that, I saw a kid on some guy's shoulders singing along to that in the middle of the afternoon, singing Jump, Kick, and I was just like, I was like, that was me. That was the whole thing personified.
It was quite funny actually, because I was talking to Matt and said, well, finally, you know, you've had more shows at Bloodstock than Beholder have, so you're the fucking house band. Yeah. You're the house band now, not us. So the pressure's off us now. But look, you know, although they're not a product of the Metal to the Masses, what they are a product of is Bloodstock's, you know, support and backing over the years. You know, they've played a bunch of times now, and rightly so. They're a great bunch of lads and lass. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Hall. What a beautiful little chat. There wasn't too much. No, absolutely not. And that was Simon Hall. Fantastic little conversation with him. Found it really interesting. Some very funny stories there. We're looking to try and get some more people involved. Talk to some more behind the scenes people about things. We'll bring you some of the specials as and when we get them. There's a really nice one hopefully in the mix that we're working on. Obviously can't say yet until it's confirmed. Also, please check out the Facebook page, the Spoken Metal Show, and follow us on Twitter and get some information from that. That's on the Spoken Metal 1. We're also working diligently to try and get the iTunes and the website up, but because we want it to be right and do it the right way, it's taking a little bit longer, but we are getting there. Thanks for listening, thanks for following. Your support's very much appreciated, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Thank you.